All right, we're going to begin here in momentarily. You ensure your cell phones are off or on silent, and council members ensure your microphones are turned on. So today is December 15th, 2025. It's a committee of the whole meeting for Barberton City Council. Before we begin our committee of the whole meeting, though, we do have individual committee meetings this evening, and we will start with street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Beck.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to call the Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting Committee to order. It is Monday, December 15th, 2025, at 6 p.m. All members of my committee are present, including the rest of council and members listed on my sheet. This evening, we have one request for legislation, a letter from Mayor William B. Judge requesting legislation supporting applications to Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Study, AMATS, for consideration for grant funding for future road resurfacing projects. Emergency wording and one reading requested. Please see the request. Did everybody have a chance to have a look at the request on the committee? There were 6 roads on this one. 5th Street, Robinson, 8th Street, Worcester Road West, 6th Street, and Hudson Run for 6 of the streets on there. Any remarks on this piece of legislation? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor, with those streets that are listed, I can't recall off the top of my head, are any of those streets have a same water line grants outstanding or awarded? Because I know we talked that we like to try to do everything first.
No, none of these are associated with any current grants that are outstanding for the water lines. But we would like to, when the grant rolls around, so if this is approved by City Council and we apply for the funds and the funds are approved, we won't get the money for 5 or 6 years. So you're looking at 2030, 2031. What we'd like to do is also work with some other different funding agencies to try to replace the water line up on 5th Street Southeast from around Robinson down to Lockley. We've got some breaks up there. It's a pretty good sized trunk line. So we'd like to kind of compare the two where it's water line gets fixed, because that grant typically moves faster than these grants. And then as soon as that's done, this money kind of falls into place and resurfaces. But for outstanding current grants.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else from the council? Anybody from the gallery? All right, may I have a motion to call this for a vote?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And may I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And we have no pending legislation for miscellaneous discussion. I was going to give a couple of updates. First, I wanted to do a thank you to the plow drivers and the crews that cleared all the snow away this weekend. Snowed and snowed, so they did a great job. And the sidewalks around the local fantastic. So, wanted to do like the 2025 closeout, just a couple of things since this will be the last meeting of the year for streets and sidewalks. The street resurfacing program did about 16 streets this year. Worcester Road West project finally is in its wrap-up stages. The final punch list is currently being completed and should be finished by the end of the year. So that was a big project that is pretty much done. The Newell Street project was started and finished this year. Wisteria, their water line replaced, and asphalt replaced. And the sidewalk install on Van Buren is continuing and going along. So that was kind of like my little year-end thing. Quick little update. 2nd Street lights, Haywood Electric is working with the company who sold the lights to us to work out what the problem is, what is going on with those lights. So still working on it. We all know that they are not, the festoon lights are not on, and I know we're very frustrated about that myself too. But everybody's working to try to get that worked out. And then lastly, to all of the council members, work on your lists for nominating streets in your warrants for the 2026 resurfacing program. Not all of them get picked from our suggestions, but they are very important. So, does anybody else have anything for discussion? Go ahead.
The light at Johnson's Corners, Worcester West and 31st Street is still on flash. I know we didn't get a nixle until late this afternoon. Probably will not be fixed till tomorrow sometime, I would imagine. I called the street superintendent to kind of get an update after I saw that it was still flashing. At like 1:30 today, after I know it was early this morning, that was, something was said about it. I think that's why we shouldn't use nixle more, is for stuff like that, because people didn't know about it until they got the nixle. So, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Go ahead.
I do think that plow drivers did good. Was there any report about how many were out or
I
numbers
did get
or
that.
anything?
There was an email that came through with a couple of questions. I did have to circle back around to get the answers for them. That was one of the things. I don't think that was one of the questions in there, but it was something I was curious about. So I'm sure we'll have an update on that. So, thank you. Thanks. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Are our new plows out yet? The ones we just purchased? No?
No, we believe that we'll receive 2 trucks this week. Just because they were purchased, not that all went through, they still have to be outfitted and things of that nature, detailed. So we should receive 2 of them this week.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anybody in the gallery? Go ahead.
Ms. Mayor, how many trucks do we have that go out to plow?
10.
Okay.
We have several that are down. There's always issues with these trucks, whether it's the hydraulics or something with the temperature. Our mechanics are really good, and they do a great job of fixing these very quickly. They did a good job this week.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. I just, I wanted to know so that way, because people think that we have a fleet of like 30 trucks, and that when they complain about their street not getting done, we have 10 trucks for the whole city, so it makes a difference.
They're the same trucks that we use for everything else, so.
Yeah.
If you're out there using cold patch, you've got to remove all the cold patch and some of the apparatuses and get it ready for leaf pickup. And then when it starts to snow and ice, you got to remove some attachments and put new attachments on them. So there's a time factor there. Time is money. So it's the same truck, and they get used quite a bit.
Yeah.
With nothing else, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
And a second?
Second.
We are adjourned at 6:07.
Thank you, Mrs. Beck. Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services. Mrs. Hager.
President Freer, Environmental Health and Social Services, meeting this evening, December 15th, in council chambers. Myself, Shirley Griffin, Taylor Thompson, and Justin Greer, and all other council members are present, along with guests noted on my sheet. We have no request for legislation. We have one appointment, letter from Mayor William Judge requesting the appointment of James Senderak to sit on the Summit County Board of Health, representing the city of Barberton for a term to start immediately and ending December 31st, 2029. Do I have any remarks from my committee or the body? Ms. Gerhart?
I didn't receive the attached in the email or here, and so 2 of the questions that are why you would be on this board, this is the attached. I think it'd be hard to make a decision when we don't have that information.
Yeah, and I apologize. I thought I had sent it over, and he had sent me a letter of interest, and I said that this application's needed, so I sent that to him. So if it's, I can send this to you later, but if I can read this to you now. Honored to be considered for a Summit County Barberton Health position. Proud to say that he's a lifelong resident of Barberton. graduated from Barberton High School in 1976. Went into the field of radiology at Barberton Citizens Hospital, School of Radiology Technology. It's a 2-year program, passed national boards, governed by the American Registry of Radiologic Technology. Received a position at the hospital there. Full-time as an X-ray in the X-ray department at Barberton Hospital for 11 years. With his wife, both work second shift. Kind of goes into a little bit more of moving around through the hospital in the same kind of radiation therapy and the different shifts. From 90 to 99, worked for a private radiation therapy clinic with offices in both Hartsville and Massillon. In 99, he accepted the therapist position at Suma Akron City Hospital and became the lead therapist on 2 of the radiation treatment machines, coordinating the patient schedules and having other responsibilities. In 2007, he became the lead therapist in the newly opened Parkview Oncology Center at Barberton Citizens Hospital, soon to become Suma Barberton. Still lives in Barberton. Spent 46 years in the field of radiology, then retired in February of 2024. Active member of the Kiwanis from 84 to 89. Very active in that. Was active in the city's centennial celebration in 1991 on the planning committee as assistant to the chairman, Mr. Robert Frucci, who was a teacher at the school. Several children who enrolled at Barberton Oakdale. He was active in the PTA throughout the 10 years that they were in school here. Sunday school teacher at his church for 20 years. Still very active in the community. And I'll get this out to you guys. And I apologize, I thought I had sent it. So I didn't.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from my committee or the body? From the gallery? We have no pending legislation. Any miscellaneous discussion? Yes.
Are you gonna call for that appointment?
Oh.
A motion.
Yeah. Do we need any more, does anybody feel we need more information before I call for this? Okay. All right, do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll motion.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And do we have any miscellaneous discussion for the gallery? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And we are adjourned at 6:15.
Thank you, Mrs. Hager. Before we proceed, I just want to make sure that, ensure your microphones are turned on when you're talking. Some people online are having issues hearing. Next up is Planning, Annexation, and Codes with Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, Codes, Monday, December 15th, 2025, 6:15 p.m., council chambers. The committee is, excuse me, the committee is present, which consists of Councilors Thompson, Harris, President Greer, and myself as chair. All others noted. 2 requests tonight. The first one is from myself requesting legislation to amend Barberton Codified Ordinance 660.08 regulations for ice cream vendors. Emergency wording and 1 reading requested. My request was basically to alter this from ice cream vendors to include all mobile food vendors. Is there any questions from body? Councilor Harris.
On the previous, the regulation at 660.08, you have a permit fee of $50 from the police department, an applicant fee, and then on the section that you're adding, G, it says that they shall be required to pay a fee of $200 per day of operation. So is that, would that actually be $250?
The $50, I believe, is for the yearly permit, is it not?
No,
No,
it's
it's
for
just for a
permit.
permit, period.
So,
Yes, there would be an initial 50 for the permit to operate in the city, and then the 200 if they're, per day, if they're on city-owned properties, right-of-ways, anything like that. If they're on private land, there would be no $200 fee.
right.
Councilor Garrett?
Two questions. Where did you come up with adjusting this one? Pretty old ordinance.
This I've actually been in talks with the planning department over probably about 3 or 4 years. And as I looked through the code, instead of trying to add another section, when we already had one for ice cream vendors, which drive around the city, I felt it only made sense to just alter that to cover everything instead of trying to create another one. Because when you do that, that's when we get a development code, and when we get alter the development code, it takes 6 terms for council and 30 years.
And then did you get to speak with like Main Street or the Parks Department and host events and get food trucks about this?
No.
May I continue or did you?
By all means.
I just knowing from volunteering with both how hard it is for them to get food trucks to come to Barberton to begin with. And oftentimes a lot of our events such as Emily's, the music festival has been so new, they don't wanna come and invest the money. They'll, sometimes let them come for free the first time so they can see if it's worth their time to come back. Or if they are collecting money, it's going to help pay for their event. So would this be an additional charge to being at the Mum Fest or being at Music Fest or Cancer Rocks or all the other?
If they're parked stationary on any city-owned property, then yes.
And then $200 if you wanna set up for a concert on a Friday night?
If you're on public land, yes.
Where did the 200, where did we get that?
Small number.
I just think it's a big number to a food truck, especially for
No,
like
that's-
a couple hours at a concert. I just don't wanna hinder anybody coming to Barberton.
Yes, well, if there's any spillage of grease or any debris left by it, and it's on public property, Mayor, who's responsible for cleaning that up when they drive away? Our city workers?
They should be, but yes, the city, which has happened.
I would love to see our city workers doing something besides cleaning up other people's messes.
I agree. I think it's in a lot of the contracts too, so maybe there could be a fee if they do something like that. And then there's also talk of charging the group hosting something, a fee through the city for our workers to be there also. So now we're really gonna hurt anybody wanting to do anything in Barberton, such as hosting events. My only thought.
They're free to use private land at no extra charge. But private land, private person is responsible for any debris and cleanup. Public land, as the mayor stated, well, I'd rather see our guys doing something more productive than cleaning up someone's junk and mess.
I would too. I just think this is a lot of money, and I think we're gonna lose food trucks and people wanting to do events here. It's just my opinion.
Understood. Before the next person there, Director Flaker, how much, when food trucks are operating, how much of the employees' income tax comes to Barberton for these trucks? Zero?
No.
Thank you. Councilor Thompson, I saw your hand up. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks. I just want to say I agree with Ms. Gerhart. And you also have to look at places like Ignite that do so much for the city, but oftentimes having a specific truck there on certain nights that draws business into them. So I think it would hurt the businesses here as well. Although I understand where you're coming from. If we have a big event downtown, there may be people who are like, oh, well, this sausage stand is not here normally. I can go to Green Diamond anytime, but, I think there's pros and cons to both, but I think this might be a little much.
Councilor Thompson, to your point, I've actually seen Ignite have food trucks on their own patio, which they have plenty of room, which would negate that fee. Councilor Beck, I'll get to you second. Her hand was up and I totally skipped her. Councilor Beck.
So, I understand where you're coming from too, and there have been times where they have left a mess, a food truck has left something to clean up, I get it. I understand a lot of the same things, a lot of the same points that Ms. Gerhart had, she already said. But I also kind of wanted to point out too that, for a food truck or a food vendor to come to the, let's just take for instance, the Mum Fest, that's $600 before they've made a penny. I think that per day is a little bit steep, and I think 200 is a little bit steep. That's my opinion, but where do you see this money going to? Let's say that we have an event, nobody leaves a mess, and we don't have to use any of these $200. What are we doing with that money then?
Councilor Beck, to your first point, you said 600. Mayor, is the Mum Fest 2 or 3 days? Saturday and Sunday, isn't it?
Saturday and Sunday, but
Okay, so
early
it's 2
sales.
days.
Okay, all right, so 400.
Mhm.
Plus the
So-
fee from Parks and Rec.
Right, and I did email Tammy today, she didn't get back with me on how much she charges them. So I was looking into it, but I didn't get an answer back yet. But I do have another question. So is it food truck, like a RV type, where you're driving the thing? Or is it like all, like carnival type food, where you're like a trailer?
Unfortunately, Councilor Beck, I did return my iPad already to
Oh, okay.
our clerk there. But I will refer you to RC code 4501.01, which defines what a motor vehicle is, and ORC code 3717.01I, which defines what a food service mobile type thing is.
Mhm.
So I refer you to those to answer the questions. Unfortunately, I don't have my iPad to
Sure.
read the definitions to you.
So I'm sure I think there's one is and one isn't. So
Yes.
potentially, we could have the same problem from somebody that we're not charging the $200 or any fee at all anyhow. Correct, like, is that right? Like, like a elephant ear place may not be a food truck under these codes.
It is.
And, okay, all right. But is there other ones that are and aren't that we would be charging?
Between those two, it covers,
Okay.
pretty much covers everything.
Okay, so we don't
There's
have
no
like
loopholes.
an imbalance here.
Right.
Okay. But I have this concern something about too. Is there room for maybe some negotiation on this $200 and a per day? Is there a middle ground we can have here?
What do you propose?
Something maybe that's more in line with what they're being charged to be at a place. I did look around at a couple of different cities that I know have second Saturdays or first Fridays. I didn't have a lot of time to look at it, but I didn't find anybody, a city charging something other than their permits and things like that. But I think we need to put our thinking caps on a little bit more on this one. I'm not completely against it, but I think this is a little too high.
Perhaps, to your point there, perhaps the Parks Department shouldn't be charging fees. The Parks Department's not a separate government. While they don't have the authority to levy fees on those things as it is, I'm not sure why they're allowed to. They're allowed to set the rates for recreation, but to set fees for something like that, I don't believe that's under their purview as it is.
I think that's a whole other discussion.
It
but-
is, but again, are they following the rules and possibly charging when they shouldn't be? If so, then this replaces that, which to my contention, I don't believe they have the authority to be charging for mobile vendors like that.
Okay. Whole other point. I also know they break even, that they're making money on Mum Fest. And that's a whole other conversation.
They're
too.
also not a business.
Yeah, okay, I get your point. But I think there's room for more conversation here.
Be it known, Councilor Beck, I am not concerned about income to the Parks Department because the Parks Department is the city. Are we concerned about the income for the police department? Are we concerned about the income for the planning department? They're not businesses. I think we tend to lose sight that just because they're the ones that are putting it on, it's their job to do that. They're not a business. I don't know how else to put that in more plain words. We have to get over this, that certain departments are autonomous from the city when they are not. I don't get some of these arguments with, well, the parks are charging this, right? Why? That's not their job to charge money. Their job is to charge money for the ball fields and set fees and schedules for the charter. Their job isn't to, oh, we want to host an event, we're going to charge whatever the hell we will. What government, Mayor, you've been mayor for quite some time, you've been on council for some time. What ordinance gives the Parks Department the authority to charge fees for events such as Mumfest, and what is the scale in that ordinance?
I don't know of any ordinance for any department. I mean, obviously, there's some for safety services, towing fees, things like that. But there's probably something somewhere that says this is, if you want to have a rezoning application, it costs this, if you want to have, I'm not sure.
99% sure no ordinance exists, so you would be correct there. Councilor Griffin, I saw your hand up next.
Yeah, Tom, I really think we should sit on this a while, or think it out, or come up with a different price structure. Over the weekend, I was at Ignite, and we had a food truck parked on the street, and I thought it was great. So now this food truck is going to have to pay $200 because it's on the street, correct? And not on the property. But for the downtown and events that's going on, I wouldn't have to go to Ignite. I mean, you walk in the street, you visit in different places, you can buy something from the food truck, and plus that alleyway back there, I think that's all a safety hazard with that food truck going back in there, and it's night and whatever. I just think we need to do something to make this better. Because we want people down here. We got good businesses coming down here. We don't want to stymie anybody from participating in our downtown. That's my take.
To that point, Councilor Griffin, I have seen food trucks at night inside
Yes.
fences. So it's not an impossibility that they could do that.
Well, I have too.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if I'm walking the streets, I don't have to go inside. I mean, I just come outside, walk up down the street to the theater, to the art gallery, or whatever, you know? Go back to the VFW, or whatever. I don't have to go on their property to do it. And to me, I think that just, for the city, it would be better.
Thank you. Councilor Hager?
Yeah, I have to agree with pretty much what everybody else has said. I think, you know, food trucks especially they have a certain amount of time during the year that they can run and do their thing. And so, and for a lot of them, that's their livelihood for the year. I think as far as, you know, having a fee so that if they leave a mess, we've got money, you know, to pay our workers to clean it up. We have workers at events like this, most, you know, like Mumfest. We have workers at the Mumfest. At the end of the day, you know, you start walking by when people are starting to close up and you make sure they're cleaning their stuff up before they leave. You know, and then you don't have to worry about whether their stuff is cleaned up. You know, we've got volunteers at the Mumfest. The volunteers can walk around at the end of the day and say, you know, hey, this, you know, French fry vendor is leaving a mess. And then somebody can go down and handle it before they leave. And that negates the whole need for a fee for that portion of it. But I just think, you know, $200 a day, you know, and depending, you know, on how many days, or $200 if they're just gonna be down there for a couple hours. I know people who own food vendor trucks, And it's, you know, it's their livelihood for the portion of the year that they can have the trucks out. And to put these kind of fees on any time they would come to Barberton is gonna take a big chunk out of their revenue. And I understand they're not paying city taxes and all of that, but I just think you start putting all of these fees on them, Barberton's gonna get a bad name, and we're gonna lose vendors. And Monfest comes along, we're gonna lose vendors for that, Second Saturdays, all the other events that we're trying to do to bring businesses to Barberton. We're gonna end up, they're gonna say it's not worth it. And then we have nothing. People aren't gonna come to these events because a lot of times people come for the food.
Councilor Higger, I wouldn't contend with 3 of your points there. Were you suggesting that volunteers clean up these messes?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No,
when
just
you said
walking
they could handle
around
it, I'd
at the
say
end of the
that-
day, and if
that
they
opens up
see
for
a
lot of
mess,
grievances.
they can let the appropriate person know so it can be handled before the vendor leaves. Then that negates, the vendor will clean it up before they leave because they've been notified of it by the proper person, and then there's no leftover mess. So
That's
that
hard to
negates that.
notify that person when they've already left the county.
No. Okay, say you're at Monfest and the event ends at 6 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, you know, we've got volunteers down there, we've got workers down there. They start walking around and checking out the different vendors and seeing, okay, does the French fry guy have a big mess around his thing? If he does, then if it's a volunteer, they notify the correct person. That person goes over and says, hey, you've got a big mess here, this needs to be cleaned up before you leave. They clean it up before they leave, and then that negates having to have a fee to clean it up because it's been cleaned up before they left.
And my 3rd point of contention, and this goes for everybody that's made points there, I would like to remind everybody that in our seats, we're here to look out for our citizens and our businesses in Barberton. You said this hurts their revenue stream. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. I don't give a damn. They don't live in Barberton. Their operations are not in Barberton. I care about the people in my city and the businesses in my city. Somebody that comes in for 2 days, pays no income tax, is immaterial to me because they literally shift a gear and they're gone. I have absolutely no sympathy for places that temporarily set up shop, take money and leave and contribute not a damn thing to our city. They contribute nothing. Director Flaker just said they pay no income tax. A $50 fee for a permit? What the hell? The people in our businesses deserve the support, not people from other counties, not people that shift gears, and not people that contribute and only leave possible messes behind. And with that, everybody's spoken. I'll go to the gallery next. Mayor?
Thank you. I totally understand where you're coming from. We put together the ice cream one for those vendors. Food trucks wasn't really a thing back at that point.
Correct.
But I also understand the concern that council's brought up. So I do think that there's some room to kind of massage this and come up with something. But I'm gonna throw another wrench at it. So, sorry. But
Please.
I've seen where there's a little kid's birthday party and they have an ice cream truck just for the party, and there's no room to park in the driveway, and so they're parking in front of the house on the street. Or they rent out a pavilion at a park and it's just for the gathering there. It's not. So I don't know if you want to make a difference between a private party versus one that's kind of open to anybody. Because I'd hate to, you know, there's snow cone machine trucks, there's all kinds of ones obviously that hate to have a gathering or party that wants to do this, but you know, they've already paid for that vehicle to be there, that mobile unit to be there only for that party, not for the general public. So just another wrench to throw into the discussion.
Thank you. Counselor-elect?
I would just like to say, perhaps you should think of using a fine. Let them know there will be a fine if they do not clean up, and then take pictures of every site, and you know what their permit numbers are, and you fine them if they don't clean up.
Thank you. Counselor-elect Stoll?
Yeah, I think my first concern is when I look at the existing ordinance, it seems like it was designed to keep potential predators and criminals away from children, and we're repurposing it for all food trucks, which seems kind of odd to me. So the way I read it, everybody who works in a food truck would have to have a background check. So if we have, some of these food trucks are run by volunteers. So does that mean all your volunteers have to pass a background check? They have to go to the police department? So like that would shut down a lot of volunteer operations on that. So it just seems odd how we're repurposing it for one thing to protect children in neighborhoods from potential predators, and now we want to apply it to food trucks in general. And then the second thing is enforcement. How do we intend to enforce this? Because the other rules for food trucks are enforced by the fire department, right? We have the fire department go around and check them, and the health department. So who enforces this particular thing once it's enacted?
Well, the enforcement would be if there's only 2 permits filed and there's 5 food trucks, we obviously know there's a problem. So then you look at which ones have them, which ones don't. The second is, yes, the repurpose of it was done purposely because, again, don't want to add another layer to a development code that I'll never see. But 2, you mentioned some food trucks are manned and staffed by volunteers. Do these volunteer organizations not do background checks? Because I would rather my city do it. I know one person in particular, that great person, went to volunteer for the schools, has a marijuana conviction from the past. He's not allowed there to be a volunteer. I personally have no problem that volunteers have to pass background tests too, because, I'm sorry, is there a law against a sex offender trying to sign up to be a volunteer? Once again, it's the organization's job to vet them. If they don't, and that slips through the cracks, well, not gonna slip through our cracks. So, you wait, is there any more from anyone else? Counselor Hager? I'll go one more for everybody if they want.
I have to go back to your comment about not caring about these food vendors and they're not from Barberton and stuff. The problem is Munfest. I see people from all over Northeast Ohio commenting that they come down to Munfest. And it's for the vendors. It's for the events. And then, people who have never visited Barberton come because this is such a huge thing. And then, hey, they take a walk around Barberton. Maybe they have lunch at Green Diamond. And they see what an amazing little town we have, and they see Lake Anna, and they see the little restaurants, and they see the little shops. And then it becomes a place that they come back to. It becomes a place that they talk about to their friends. Oh, you should see, this cute little, the tea lady, and the little antique shops, and Snowball Bookstore. And it brings business to our businesses in Barberton that pay city taxes. So, in any event where there's vendors and food trucks, it attracts people, love it. And it attracts people. It attracts people from different areas that might otherwise never have come to Barberton. You get Eddie's cheesesteaks. I mean, I've literally stood out in the rain at Rocky's to get an Eddie's cheesesteak.
Good thing he was on private property.
Anyways, if he sets up and everybody knows Eddie's cheesesteaks, if they come into Barberton just to get an Eddie's cheesesteak and say he's downtown, it gives people an opportunity. Hey, while I'm here, let me check out some of this other stuff. And they might not have ever had a reason to come to Barberton other than a food truck. As crazy as it sounds, that might have been their only reason. But because they came down here and they see our shops downtown, and they see how cute they are and what a variety we have, then they start coming down here on a regular basis and they tell their friends and their family, and it brings business. So you can't say I get that you don't care about their revenue, but the revenue that they bring to our Barberton businesses because they are here is something that needs to be considered.
Be it known, I'm not trying to ban them.
No, I get that.
Let me ask another question. Mayor, the Barberton Public Library, does the city own the library? So theoretically, they could use their entire parking lot to have a whole food truck roundup, and it would be classified as basically being on private property, correct? Thank you. Councilor Harris, I saw your hand up.
Looking at this though, let's take the restaurants out of it here. Let's look at, you can get food at Ignite, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Without a food truck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what about right here? White Rabbit Galleries, they have a fundraiser. How are they gonna get food trucks? Those food trucks are not gonna pay $200 to come sit in front of White Rabbit Galleries for a fundraiser.
We also said that, in retrospect to that, we also said and heard from numerous people that landlords weren't gonna pay $200 in rental registration fee. How's that work out?
That's another story.
But again,
That's another
hey,
story.
but I'm using your logic. We were told, people aren't gonna pay something. They do it anyway.
But what I'm saying is, you have businesses downtown, White Rabbit Galleries, Marvin's Place, the pinball. If they have fundraisers, they don't have private property. They're stuck in between two buildings. The only place for them to put a food truck is on public property. It's not like pregame has Foro's Pizza or whatever it is, and they're usually parked right out front. That's on public. But they can go to the side of the building and it's private.
Correct there.
So we're kind of saying, well, if you have private property, you can put a food truck there and not pay a fee. But
Well, the business.
a business that doesn't have any private property, such as White Rabbit Galleries or the pinball place, they're stuck. If they want food trucks, they're gonna have to tell the food vendor, hey, you have to pay $200 to come down to my fundraiser. If I was a food vendor, I'd tell you to go pound salt. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? President Greer.
I'd rather not beat this to death, but obviously this is probably not going to make it out of committee tonight. But it was a good talking point. I would encourage all council members to actually talk to the business owners that actually do serve food, because you'd be very surprised at what they have to say about this, because it's probably not, let's just let them be here for free. Every single business downtown that I've talked to that serves food. So take that into account. I'm not saying this needs to be worked. The idea in general is something that I've heard forever from our businesses, and we do need to protect them. So that's all I had to say. I know we're not going to get it done today, but this conversation might come up in the near future from audience.
Thank you, Mr. President. And with that, this next legislative session is the last legislative session or meeting of the year, and sign die follows. So we're just gonna have some fun here. Do I have a motion to call for this? If it dies, it dies. It can't carry over if it passed anyway, so do I have a motion? I'm free to do that as the chair. I make the motion. Do I have a second? Hearing none, this dies. Hey, there's only one legislative session left. You might as well. All right, on to the next piece. A request for myself. Requesting legislation to amend ordinance 157/2025 to add specific parameters for data centers into the development code, emergency wording, and one reading requested. Before we go into that, when we placed the moratorium on data centers, the mayor tasked us with defining data centers. The request in front of you has that definition. If anybody has any questions about how that definition came about, this was pulled straight from the ORC codes of what defines a data center. So, if anybody was going to raise their hand for why it said that, pull it straight from there. Councilor Gerhart.
Did this go through the planning commission?
Sorry?
Did this go through the planning commission? Did they develop this?
No. But if you look at chapter 1130 of the allowable uses, use group 19C, what this would be doing is, one, defining what a data center is, two, putting minimum restrictions on it, three, by being in 19C, it would be subject to a conditional use permit, which would have to be approved by the planning commission, which could put more restrictions on if possible. If the plan showed that it was just gonna be a building with no barriers. Mr. Best, you know, you could say it's.
We do anything we want.
Exactly. All this does is establish the minimum. What's that? No, the minimum restrictions.
Oh, sorry.
The minimum, yeah, the minimum restrictions that a data center by definition could be, which would also throw in the hands of the planning commission to put any other restrictions that they felt was necessary. Part of the conditional use permit process is, Mr. Best, you can correct me because I'm probably gonna word it wrong, it's something about the harmony of the area. If there's a violation of that, am I correct?
Pretty much, we go with, you know, the environment, the people in the area. It's gonna be, you know, noise restrictions, power restrictions, size of the building restrictions, all that's available to do. So everything's proposed. We know what to say, what to do. Yeah, we can limit anything. And it'd be open to the public, so they'd be able to come in and put their input in too.
Thank you. Councilor Garrett?
I think why I was asking that was at the time of the moratorium, you said it was to buy time for the planning commission to define all this. And since I feel like we kind of rushed that and we're not planners, I was just curious if this should go through that first, get their feedback and input, so that we're not having to change anything. And it's coming from that group of people that are really good at doing that.
I see your point, Councilor Gerhart. I think I was pretty thorough in looking at the ORC codes of how to define them, and actually went through different researching of size, lots, all of that. All this did was put minimal restrictions, and minimal would still open loopholes that by putting it in that use group, once again, the planning commission would have to review the site plans, would have to go through everything, and go from there. But what this does is, if somebody made something bigger, like, say, a 485,000 square foot behemoth of an annoyance, they could look at this and not even bother.
Yeah.
Because they know that they're not putting that behemoth here to annoy the city. So they would know right off the bat, if they want something this size or smaller, we're open for business. The planning commission takes it from there. But this wards off people that are potentially looking at a 250,000 square feet.
Again, I'm not a planner or do I know much about data centers other than the debacle that Norton almost had.
And that's
so.
why I did a lot of researching to come up with just the minimal restrictions in this fashion.
Just asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lex Stoll, I see your hand.
Yeah, my question would be, is size the best thing in this case? Was that what was being protested in Norton, or was it the other characteristics of the center? The noise and the pollution effects? Would it be better if we regulated the noise output, the pollution output, the water intake, rather than the ultimate size? Because if somebody brought in a giant data center, but it was powered by solar and it didn't use any water, would that be okay?
Again, if they didn't fit these parameters, that'd be up to the planning commission. They could easily approve something that fits inside of these parameters, but under something like that, if somebody was gonna put a 250,000 square foot one, say, oh no, we're gonna use solar, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, it's out of our hands at that point. The problem came that data centers are fairly new to development codes and caught our neighboring city off guard. And the one thing I don't wanna do is be caught off guard with this one, because it's not in the new development code. Therefore, if we put it in, and we have such minimal restrictions, but make it so that the commission is ultimately the say on it. You know, we could put a noise level in here, yes. But if a center is gonna be, if they wanna open 2 buildings, 2 data centers, and each one creates a hair under the decibel level, but when you combine the 2, it's louder than that, with echoing and whatnot. Well, they met that requirement. But now the sound vibrations and everything else, construction people in this type of business, I'm not sure we can trust them right now, because, again, they're so new. They could see something like noise levels, could see something like water levels, and manipulate the hell out of them. And we wouldn't have a way out of it. So, again, all I'm doing is defining it, putting minimum restrictions, and handing it to the planning commission to ultimately make the best decision for the city.
I just have an honest question. Could we just say that, like, if you have a definition of what a data center is, it immediately has to go to the planning? Instead of like setting criteria that, because right now we have no case in front of us, so this is completely arbitrary. So like, we don't know, like, what if somebody sets up one this size, but they use like the worst like diesel generators ever made, because they're like, you let me do this, maybe a better approach would say, wait until the case comes and it has to go to the planning commission for them to tell us, like, even like, what is the criteria we should be using? Like, I feel like we just don't know. Like, we're trying to predict what may happen.
The general reason for the size restrictions I put in, and use group 19C is in I3 zoning. There is not a whole lot of land that, without minimum restrictions in I3, would they be able to build straight to the line? We don't have anything in our codes that says no. Would they be able to build, say, okay, well, it's only gonna be 100,000 square feet, but it's also gonna be 6 stories high? I don't have a way saying no to that if it's not defined. This would take people that look to build 100,000 square foot, 6-story high, from even bothering. But the ones that can meet these parameters, yes, they would come and take the next step. But again, without something like this, if it's not in the code, it's not in the code. We can't do anything about it. Councilor Gerhardt?
I think I'm kind of with Council-elect Stoll on this. What if, because we're not data center experts, we're not even putting the right stuff in here though? What if just this minimum, there's actually more that we should include, or something in here we should take out? I don't know if this is, I think it should, I would prefer to see it in Mr. Best's hand first before it comes to council, but that's just me.
Well, luckily for us, oh, there it is. To say, luckily for us, we have somebody that knows a little bit about technology. President Greer, your opinion on these minimal restrictions?
I'm split down the middle. Currently, we have a moratorium, so no data centers can go here, so why,
Well, to that point, also, if this passed, it would also repeal that moratorium.
I don't know much about data centers. They're so new. That's why communities
We're racing the hole in this
look,
one.
that's why communities are getting caught off guard. A lot of them are getting screwed. Some are not. I know of a couple data centers that are giant and they're off the grid and they're good for the community that they're in. But they come in all various shapes and sizes. Like Mr. Bogart was saying, the data center could be as small as 2 servers in a room. I don't know enough about this to make a statement, to be honest with you. I just don't.
I was looking to you for this one.
I know, I'm sorry.
All right, are there any other comments? All right, and once again, because we only have one meeting left, do I have a motion to call for this? I will make that motion. Do I have a second? With no second, this dies. Great. Miscellaneous discussion. Director is not here. I saw your hand this time, Counselor.
I wanted to thank you for your work on that data center. I know something is better than nothing. We do have something right now. I wanted to wait for miscellaneous discussion to see how that was gonna go before I said that. But, you were asked to define that, and you did. So I'm glad you did it. I agree with everybody what they said. This is new. We have something is better than nothing. But thanks for that work. That's all really.
No, I appreciate the compliment, but I ripped it from the RC because as much as I hate the asshats at the General Assembly, you can thank them for putting it in there. Is there any other miscellaneous? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:59.
Thank you, Mr. Hedrick. Last but not least, finance personnel, Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring Finance and Personnel Committee to order. It is Monday, December 15th, 2025, 6:59 p.m. here in Council Chambers. All members of my committee are present, which includes myself as chair, Mr. Heidig, Mr. Griffin, and President Gurr. All other council members are also present, as well as guests as noted. We have a few requests for legislation. The first being from Jeremy Flaker, our finance director, requesting legislation to adopt an additional plan offered by AXA Equitable to offer a Roth 457 plan which employees can contribute to deferred compensation on a post-tax basis. Emergency wording, one reading requested. Mr. Flaker had stated that with the Roth 457, the employee pays the tax now, so when they start collecting their deferred compensation, they won't be taxed. And this would offer both plans to employees, so employees who contribute to this can choose the plan which works best for them. Are there any remarks? Hearing, yep.
Is there any cost to the city?
No.
I was just wondering why it was in finance then. Okay, thank you.
Did you have something?
I was just gonna make a comment and wish it was like this 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Flaker.
Yeah, I think it's good to, give our employees options, so. All right, with nothing else, do I have a motion to call this to the consent agenda?
Motion?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Alright. Moving on, we have another request from Mr. Flaker, legislation for a temporary budget which will cover operating expenses for the city through the first quarter of operations or until the annual budget is adopted. Emergency wording and one reading is requested. Did everybody receive that? Are there any questions, comments? For this one, I don't wanna put it on consent just in case anything does come up, so we'll just, cause there might be some comments that somebody thinks of a question or something. But do I have a motion to call for this?
So moved.
Thank you, and a second?
Second?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Alright. Next, we have another request from Mr. Flaker requesting an ordinance modifying appropriations within certain funds in order to cover expenses to the end of the year. This is the annual adjustment ordinance that both increases and decreases appropriations as needed. Emergency wording and one reading is requested. Are there any questions on that? Do I have a motion to call for this?
Do consent or no?
Yes.
Motion?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
To the consent agenda. Next, we have the presentation of the finance report for the month of November. Mr. Flicker.
Thank you. So, starting off with the health insurance fund, in the month of November, our revenues were just over $430,000. Our expenditures, $447,000. Makes our net year-to-date a negative $193,000. Moving on to the income tax fund. Our estimate for the month of November was just shy of 1.2 million. Our actual was just a little over 1 million. So that is actually the first time in all year that the actual came in under our estimate. A lot of that has to do with, I'm pretty sure there was a refund that went out the last month. So sometimes you get some of these businesses that will make their estimate on their net profit or their withholdings. They'll make estimate payments and they'll make large estimate payments. But then when the actuals come around, they're actually due a refund because they made such a large payment. So probably something like that happened. They never notified me of the business or anything of that nature, so I'm not sure. But the good news is our actuals are up from last year by about 200,000. We are over our estimate for the year. We did finish off the transfer to the general fund. And that's all I have for the income tax fund. So we're going to move on to the statement of cash positions. You'll notice there's a couple changes this month. A couple funds finally got out of the negative. So that we only have two funds in the negative currently, the FEMA fund and the CDBG fund, both federal programs. The FEMA fund is for the dam grant. We're in the design phase of that. The CDBG fund is the federal HUD program. The city grant fund did come out of the negative because that was the sludge to watering building out at the wastewater treatment plant. That project is slowly wrapping up. We still have, I think, like 200,000 or 300,000, I think, still left in that, and any invoices that maybe are outstanding. But I do know that project is pretty much done. And then the other fund that came out of the negative and is in the positive is the health insurance fund. As I said all year round, a lot of that is just that encumbrance outstanding for the health insurance premium that we have to pay to Summit County every single month. So that finally came out of the negative this month. Looking at the last 3 months of activity, you'll notice there's not really much change from last month to this month in the general fund. Went down slightly. Looking at the special revenue funds actually went up by about 1.4 million. Part of that is encumbrances outstanding went down by about 600,000. Enterprise funds, you'll notice they went up slightly from last month to this month. Once again, encumbrances outstanding are down. And all other funds, you'll notice the normal about this is about $400,000 increase that we see every month in those all other funds. And that is just us charging back those health care costs to the departments, and that's coming into the health insurance fund. So Looking at the November of '24 to November of '25, you'll notice the general fund is actually pretty scary how close it would be from last year to this year if it wasn't for the $6 million transfer out of the general fund. You'll notice our receipts, disbursements, and actually net transfers, if I add 6 million to that, are basically all the same from last year. So it's almost a carbon copy, but we would be sitting in a better spot in the unencumbered cash balance. Just for the main fact, if you notice, the one big difference from last year to this year is the encumbrances outstanding are down by about $900,000. So why all the other numbers look very identical, we would actually be about $900,000 more than what we were at the same time last year. Special revenue funds, they're up by about 1.5 million from last year. A lot of that, once again, look at the encumbrances outstanding. The encumbrances outstanding are down by about $2 million. A lot of this just has to deal with ARPA funds being used up. Last year we were at the tail end trying to get them used up and everything, and now we spent that money, we paid out that money. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these encumbrances going down. The enterprise funds, they're down by about 1.2 million. I would have to look a little closer into that. I mean, 200,000 of that is encumbrances outstanding are a little bit higher. And I do know we paid down some debt service, and we did have a lot of capital projects this year. All other funds is up by about $6 million. As I stated before, that is that $6 million transfer from the general fund to the capital project fund for the Justice Center City Hall building. And with that, that's all I have. Any questions? Thank you.
With no questions, do I have a motion to call for this? And a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Is there any miscellaneous? Yes.
This is actually for the mayor. Do you have any idea when we'll finish the budget for next year?
No. I mean, we have to get the actuals in after the first of the year.
I know it goes without saying that we're losing our 3 most seasoned council members. We will still have Mr. Griffin as president, but with 4 brand new council members and 2 only halfway through their terms, I just want as much time and not come down to the wire if possible.
And I want to be as accurate as I can with the numbers. Department heads spend a lot of time here, as today, the fall, trying to get quotes. And we want to make sure that the last few years, they haven't kept quotes, that they don't hold them for very long. So, we put X number of dollars in the budget for this widget. By the time it passes or goes to city council, it's already changed. So there's a lot of work that goes into it.
No, I know. Thank you.
We do have the third reading next week of both ordinances, 172 and 173, to enter into contract with Hudson Sound Architects, for the architectural services for the City Hall Justice Center project, as well as entering it into contract for the CMR, construction manager at risk for the, City Hall Justice Center project. Were there any remarks on those? With no other miscellaneous, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
We're adjourned at 7:11.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. That concludes our individual committee meetings this evening. Let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back and begin our committee of the whole meeting.
welcome.
Thank you. All right, so today is December 15th, 2025. It's a committee of the whole meeting for Barberton City Council. I call this meeting to order at 7:22 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're going to move into citizens addressing council. We have one here, Mr. McMillan. You step up to the microphone. You have 5 minutes. Please state the reason, or your name, address, and reason you're speaking. Just know that council can't speak back to you.
Good evening. My name is Scott McMillan. I live at 531 Westlake Avenue here in Barberton. I wanted to approach the council tonight to discuss an ongoing issue I've been experiencing with a local business. Tangentially, this is about the noise ordinance as well as just a general noise complaint question. First, I wanted to thank Councilwoman Beck as well as the Barberton Police Department. They've been extremely helpful in the issue that I've been experiencing, and I do appreciate their work. My issue is this. I live next to a Raymond James Financial Services branch located at 527 Westlake Avenue. Each year, this business installs a synchronized music and light show on the property. As part of this display, 3 loudspeakers are placed in the building's second floor roof, approximately 25 feet from my living room window. This Raymond James is currently playing the same 5 songs for 5 hours a day, starting at 5 p.m. and ending at 10 p.m. conveniently outside of their normal hours, business hours of operation. This business does so every day of the week, including Sundays. This music began on November 29th and will likely continue until January 1st of 2026. As I mentioned, Raymond James has placed these speakers approximately 25 feet from my home. The music echoes throughout each room in my apartment, and I do not have the luxury of escaping it. I am not exaggerating when I say this causes me immense distress. What may seem like a harmless display to others is causing me psychological exhaustion. After 3 calls to the police, a call to the mayor's office, a call to the buildings department out of pure desperation, and Councilwoman Beck visiting my home herself, the city of Barberton came to a concerning conclusion for itself. And that is this: a non-residential building registered as a commercial property, playing music for 5 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 34 consecutive days, outside of their normal operating hours, with no permit or formal pre-approval, does not violate the local noise ordinance nor general regulations of uses allowed in existing zoning law. I have been told that since there is no reasonable enforcement mechanism, it is now purely a civil matter. I am now faced with the absolutely Kafkaesque mission of filing a lawsuit against a Raymond James branch 10 days before Christmas. I understand that this music is being played within the allowable time span of our noise ordinance. I understand that it may not annoy anyone at properties 80 feet, from 80 feet away. I get that it doesn't bother anyone at the property because they're gone before it starts. And yes, if you sit in your car and listen to it for a few moments, it may not annoy you in that short span of time. But please consider the absolute absurdity of this situation I find myself in. What legitimate activity is taking place here? Again, outside the normal hours of business operation, with no event taking place on a Sunday evening at 9:30 p.m. I argue that Raymond James does not play this music during their normal operating hours because, obviously, it would actually compromise their business. Staff may find it difficult to communicate with clients as that loud music plays repeatedly in their office space. A Raymond James client may be annoyed that Uptown Funk is being played as they discuss matters related to their will or business. Again, what legitimate purpose does this serve? To simply wish others a Merry Christmas or Happy New Year. This ruins my entire year, or at least the remainder of it. I believe that the commercial and residential properties can peacefully cohabitate in our streets. I am sure all members of the City Council will agree with me that this cohabitation must be reasonably regulated. Consider this, if these speakers weren't outside my living room window, but a young child's bedroom, would it be seen as harmless? Sure, it's within the hours of the loud hours of our noise ordinance, but the child's bedtime may come before that ordinance ends. If we leave the decision of what is appropriate solely to the commercial property owner, who doesn't have to experience the noise they create, we are leaving room for people to exercise very poor judgment over other people's housing and living situations. This activity also raises numerous additional questions that apparently have not been asked. Can every building that is registered as a commercial property do this as well? If Raymond James can do this for 34 consecutive days, again, outside of their normal operating hours, could they do this indefinitely? Will Lake Anna Dental suddenly start blasting Guns N' Roses out of loudspeakers? What would happen to property values if every business was doing this? What sort of judgment or reasoning is anyone using here? Please understand that I have no issues with the lights or the celebration of Christmas. And yes, I have spoken to numerous people at this commercial property throughout the years that I have lived here. Suffice to say, I have got the same result as the police have had in this situation. Reasonable alternatives to fix this situation do exist, but they have all been rejected. It should never be expected that Barberton residents must negotiate with business owners on the noise level at commercial properties outside of their regular business hours. The stacks are against a normal citizen. If they can get up and leave and say, well, it doesn't bother me, of course it doesn't, you don't live next door to me. The city should examine this within the discussions about proper zoning and business activity before they blend commercial and residential real estate together. The best prevention against a situation like this is the fact that the person generating the noise would also be exposed to it, and that may motivate them to not play that noise. However, if they are not, then a reasonable person like myself has nothing to bargain with. I have only everything to lose for 34 consecutive days. 5 minutes is not enough to discuss this in full, but just as a quick side personal note, I did not include these in my comments. I'm a educator, not in this district, but I work at an elementary school a few cities away. There's 1,200 kids in our building. I alone have 44 kids on my caseload. About 25% of them are children with special needs. These are children who scream, who have wild outbursts, who can be very difficult but rewarding to work with. I do, yes, as a city resident, feel entitled to come home and from 5 to 10 p.m. have a reasonable level of peace. It should not be that the property next door, where nobody is at, where no event is taking place, suddenly sounds like a nightclub. Again, when that happens, a person like me wants to leave. I want to exit Barberton. And as we can all understand, the city right now may lose teachers, and I don't think it needs to be losing any more, especially even if they're not working within our school district here. So again, thank you for my time. If you would like to ask me any follow-up questions about what I'm experiencing, I am more than happy to answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to go into our committee reports, and first up is Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting. Mrs. Beck.
Thank you, Mr. President. Streets, sidewalk, and lighting met this evening in council chambers. We had one piece of legislation, a letter from Mayor William B. Judge requesting legislation supporting an application to AMATS for consideration for grant funding. We also had, no, we did not, sorry. And with that, I pass. Thought we had something pending, but we didn't.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Environmental Health and Social Services, Mrs. Hager.
Thank you, Mr. President. Environmental Health and Social Services met this evening. We had no request for legislation or pending legislation. We did have one appointment from Mayor William Judge, James Senderak, to sit on the Summit County Board of Health. That came out of committee, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Hager. Planning and Annexation Codes, Mr. Heick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning and Annexation Codes has nothing to report. That I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Heick. City Properties, Park and Recreation, Mr. Foreman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The city, properties, and parks and recreations have nothing to report, and we pass.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Foreman. Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Public Welfare and Safety, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public welfare and safety has nothing to report, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Rules, Marketing and Development, Ms. Gerhart.
Do you want me to-
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, we did talk about this. Ms. Speck.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules, Marketing and Development met last Monday, December 8th. There was one piece of legislation requested. A letter from Thomas Heidick, Councilman at Large, requesting legislation to reconsider withdrawn ordinance 87-2025 for the May 2026 primary election. There was one piece of legislation in this one, presented by Ms. Gerhart, adopt policy, cybersecurity policy and ordinance authorizing the City of Barberton to adopt the City of Barberton cybersecurity policy. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Speck. City Utilities, Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities met on December 8th. All members of my committee were present. We had one piece of legislation to call for. A letter from Todd Reed, Service Director, requested legislation to amend ordinance number 103-2024 to add additional funding to the original contract due to various change orders that altered the original scope of work. Emergency wording and one reading requested, and we did put that on the consent agenda, which was, I made a motion, it was passed and voted, and we'll vote on that next week. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Finance and Personnel, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, council voted on several pieces of legislation, with the exception of ordinances 172 and 173 that are still pending. And those are the City Hall Justice Center projects, one for the architectural services and the other for the CMR. Then this evening, my committee met and we are calling for the following legislation to be placed on the consent agenda. The first, a request for Mr. Flaker, requesting legislation to adopt an additional plan offered by AXA Equitable to offer a Roth 457 plan, which employees can contribute to deferred compensation on a post-tax basis. Emergency wording, one reading requested, as well as another request which would modify appropriations within certain funds in order to cover expenses to the end of the year. This is the annual adjustment ordinance that both increases and decreases appropriations as needed. Emergency wording, one reading requested. And then on the regular agenda, we have legislation request for a temporary budget, which will cover operating expenses for the city through the first quarter of operations or until the annual budget is adopted. Emergency wording, one reading requested. We also reviewed the finance report for the month of November. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. That concludes our committee reports. Anything from the body? Mr. Hedrick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two questions, one for the mayor and then one for the mayor, possibly Councilor Harris on this. When the citizens stepped forward talking about the noise levels with commercial buildings, I'm not sure the regulations, but I know that property is not zoned commercial, it's zoned office use. Does that change their ability to do certain things?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
It's best to you.
Without looking at.
I didn't know because that's residential, commercial, and office zoning are all three different. So I didn't know if there was something in play with that. The second question, again, Councilor Harris, you might know this one. Same issue. Don't we have something in our codes against the use of amplified sound devices? It doesn't cover the speakers?
There is something, I'd have to read it again, it's been a while since I've actually looked at that stuff. A lot of that, like the sound amplifying devices,
Right.
I know when it was implemented, it was more of for motor vehicles, because people like to use amplifiers in their car and crank it up to about 200 decibels, I think. That's something I guess could be looked at, but I know there's not, city ordinance wise, I don't think it, for the noise, a lot of noise complaint stuff, it doesn't decipher whether it's coming from a commercial business or a private residence.
And that's why I was curious that by using those type of speakers, if those are amplified sound devices, and if it falls under that category, Mayor, would you do?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I know that Mr. McMillan has called my office, he's talked to police officers, as he's mentioned, he's talked to the law office as well.
I'm just spitballing just different things I know exist, but I don't know the nuts and bolts of them.
I'd have to go in and look at the actual ordinance of it and see what it says, but I know we do have a sound amplifying device ordinance. I think it was more geared towards, as far as at the time, and it's probably been in effect since, I don't know, a while ago.
1998.
1988? I knew it was a while.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Is there anything else from the body? It's just body comments. Is there anything else from the body? We're done with council.
Oh, she's got something.
Is there anything else from council body?
No, sir.
Thank you. I apologize. The only thing I have is we have one more meeting left. So, be it as it may. I seen that ugly sweater thing here. We didn't do it this year, but feel free. I ain't gonna, nobody's gonna.
Guy wearing an ugly suit.
I think you already
I was-
did. Already wore it.
Let's not go there.
Did you look in the mirror?
Yeah.
Go out with some class, don't wear it again.
Other than that, I don't have anything. Mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to let council know, as I was sitting there, I did send you the letter of interest from James for the Board of Health, so I did email that to you. First, I want to thank all the residents who did attend my open office hours this past Saturday. We'll put the schedule out here very soon for next year. We're still collecting non-perishables for BACM, Common Threads, and the Salvation Army through January. With the cold weather and with, federal cuts and changes at the federal and state level, a lot of things going on, the need has never been greater. So if you can donate, please do so. Working with Summit County and the fiber expansion, about 64% is complete countywide. There are no crews that were out today because of the cold temperature. Hopefully midweek, when it warms up a little bit, they'll have crews out throughout the county. No work is scheduled this week in Barberton, but they are still in mode. This weekend with the weather event, our crews were out for the snow and ice control. We received about 4 inches of snow, obviously high winds and freezing temperatures as well. With the forecast of this week, which includes temperatures reaching close to 50 degrees, we're prepared for this drastic change. This time of change, drastic change, really does wreak havoc on our water lines. Again, this is not unique to Barberton. It's that freezing and thawing and so quickly, happening so quickly. Our crews are prepared for water main breaks and getting that restored. I did get some kind of a recap for the weekend events. I think it's important that everyone understand kind of the process and what goes on. So I'll read through this. The first crews were dispatched on Saturday, the 13th, around 2:30 p.m. That was 6 employees. They worked till 10 p.m. 2 of them worked until 4:30 a.m. on Sunday. At that time, we had a full crew back working until 2:30 p.m. This is on Sunday. And we had another full crew back in at 4:30 a.m. on Monday, trying to get the roads again taken care of before people left for work or for school. The crews worked all the main roads and hills before starting in the neighborhoods, which is every city's process. Obviously, bridges will freeze first, so we want to get those done, and we want to get the main roads done so people can get or safety forces can get to places quicker, all of those items. The men found multiple rounds of heavy to moderate snow during this period with temperatures in the single digits. Salt does lose its effectiveness at 15 degrees or less. All roadways have been serviced multiple times during this event, and we currently have we had six employees working until 6 p.m. tonight. Salt usage. So we get a lot of calls of, people did not see the snowplow or the salt truck. They may have heard it, but they didn't see it. So we get a lot of calls like that. They weren't their blade wasn't down, or they weren't putting salt out, or what have you. So, a little bit about salt. Salt is effective at melting ice by lowering water's freezing point and creating a brine that prevents refreezing, but its effectiveness drops significantly in colder temperatures, especially below 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, requiring additives or alternatives like calcium chloride for extreme cold. While sodium chloride, rock salt, works best near 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Other chlorides handle much lower temperatures, though all have environmental impacts on plants and water. So I can go into how salt works. Hopefully everyone knows how that works. In terms of sodium chloride, rock salt is most effective between 25 and 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Effectiveness decreases below 20 degrees. It's really inactive below 15 degrees. Talk about requires some of the limitations and impact. Requires moisture. Solid salt needs existing water or melting snow and ice to form a solution. It doesn't melt ice instantly on its own. So you go out there and plow, put the salt down, you gotta wait a little bit to kind of start to get that moisture in so it can start to break down the rest of the ice. Environmental damage. Salt runoff can harm plants, animals, soil, and contaminate groundwater and rivers. So we're cognizant of that as well. We currently have 10 plow trucks and 21 employees. 2 of those employees are mechanics, and 3 of those employees are new hires. They do go through training. There's a lot going on in that cab while they're driving. So if you have a full bed of salt, it increases the weight of the truck quite a bit. If only someone could salt the bridge that they're coming down on before they get there, right? They are the ones doing the work, and there's a lot of weight pushing that truck down. So you've got the auger, you've got the blades down, you've got to check and make sure that you're not hitting the curb. And on some streets, we got calls, well, they're not going all the way to the side of the road. Well, if there's leaves there, we don't want to hit the leaves and throw them into the resident's front yard, because we know it's going to get warmer this week. Hopefully we can get back out there and continue picking up leaves when the snow's melted or it's at least a little warmer. There are 5 plow routes throughout the city. Each route has a designated truck whose priorities are the main roads and hills first before starting in the neighborhoods. Each driver is usually scheduled for 12-hour shifts during snow events. This is dependent on manpower with time off, etc. All main roads are plowed in each direction twice before salt is applied. The temperatures in the single digits, salt has very little melting properties. In a snow event like we just experienced happens, it is very hard to battle multiple snow blasts at low temperatures and hard packing snow on roadways. So I want to give you a little bit kind of what they deal with. We do look at ground temperature, air temperature, and to keep abreast of what's going on with the weather forecast as it is right now and moving forward. So they do a very good job. Very proud of the work that they do. Very proud of our mechanics because there's so many. You look at these vehicles these days. I always use the analogy with police cars, but it's true of many of the vehicles today. They're all computers, right? And if one thing breaks, typically it shuts down other functions of that vehicle. Where in the past, when it wasn't such computerized, if something broke, it just limited that function. So our mechanics do a great job keeping these things on the road and functioning. So we're looking forward with, I don't mean that in terms of delight, but looking forward and getting warmer weather and getting back out, cleaning up, pick up the leaves, and then seeing what's around the corner from Mother Nature. So It's a crazy time of the year with the fluctuation of the temperatures. So we're prepared, and we'll see what happens here in the coming days. So, any questions? Yes.
Did we use any clear lane,
Yeah.
which is a type of salt? Some people don't know what clear lane is. It's utilized when temperatures are below 15. It's kind of like the green stuff that you see. So we did use some of that.
Yeah. So if you walk in the back parking lot, you're on the way your car, if you park that way, you'll see it out there. And it's always also tough, you know, when you put salt down and cars are driving on the road, you know, if you notice any type of debris in the road, the cars are gonna kick it off to the side, right? So you try to plow first, put the salt down, let it do its job, and then come back and plow it again. But yes, we did use that salt. Any other questions? Yes.
You mentioned earlier that we have 10 plows, but few are broke down. Do you know how many we have up and working?
I'm not exactly sure. We have at least 5, I know that for sure. I don't know. And, you know, they could be easy fixes, I'm not exactly sure. So,
Thank you.
and then we should be getting 2 to 3 new trucks this week.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Why did we get the Nixle so late today?
I'm not sure, I'll look into that.
Can we use that Nixle for stuff like that instead of a trash can ordinance, please?
Well, the trash can ordinance did affect every
Thank you.
residence in the, you're welcome, but every residence in the city. So I'll look into why it came out a little later.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, I appreciate the time.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I do have one other thing. I apologize. I forgot to mention this earlier. If you wish to donate to the Ask Me food drive, today's the last day. So there's an envelope on Lori's desk for that. And with nothing else, this meeting is adjourned, 7:49.